If you've ever sat and thought, if only LegalServer could, fill in the blank there, this is the session for you. It's actually maybe the session for you even if you've never thought that, because you may find some things that you'll learn that LegalServer could do that you never even thought, oh, could LegalServer do this or that? So hopefully it'll be a useful session for you even if you've never asked yourself that question. Just a couple of things that our users wish for and have asked us, could LegalServer do this? Just some examples. How about allowing staff to electronically sign off on their time? If your staff keeps all of their time in LegalServer, wouldn't it be nice, instead of them printing out a timesheet and then signing that or something, wouldn't it be nice to let them electronically sign that right within LegalServer and then have other people verify that? How about sending a client a form to fill out and have that information stored in a case? Could be specific data, could be acknowledging a retainer agreement, something like that. And then the final example here is logging in with Google or Microsoft credentials that your staff already use. So what to expect in this session, things you can count on learning. After the session, you'll know what modules are available in LegalServer. What modules are already available on your site. Could be very interesting, especially for people who may be new site administrators. Maybe you weren't there when your site was onboarded and you don't know what modules were enabled, what happened, and so forth. And you will also be ready to create a list of modules to try on your site. Where can you learn about modules? Before we do that, let's just talk about, I keep using this term modules and assuming people know what that means, but let's just be clear about that. So modules are things that let you do things that you can't already do in LegalServer. So for example, I want to create a new intake. Do I need a module for that? No. You can create new intakes in LegalServer. Can you change your intake? That sort of thing. That's all built in. You can do that. Modules let you do additional things within LegalServer. Modules often add fields. Some might add new blocks to your site, if you know what a block is. Might add new processes and forms to your site. Might even add new admin pages. So some of what I refer to as bigger modules like Advanced Grants Management or the Contractor module, when you get those enabled, all sorts of new things get added to your site. So where can you learn what modules are available? As the screenshot there shows you, we are looking at help.legalserver.org. Hopefully everybody has been there many times, but that is our help site. It's publicly available. You don't even have to be logged into LegalServer to look at it. And highlighted down there in the red circle is a little card for optional modules. So that's where you would click on to see a whole list of all of the optional modules in LegalServer. If you have very good eyesight, you might notice it says 110 articles there. So there are 110 additional modules, things that you can do within LegalServer. And it's probably the number's a little bit higher at this point since that screenshot was taken. Next question. So you've got all these modules. Which ones are enabled on your site? So it tells you on the left there, go to your admin tab in your navigation bar. And then if you can't see it on that main admin page in the search box that you've probably seen before, just start typing in the word module. Or you can also type in extensions. And once you do that, then you'll see the extensions row will come up there and it'll tell you that you can view enabled add-on modules and integrations. You can click on that. And then the two boxes below, if you go to that page, you'll notice it's a very long page. So what we're trying to represent here in the screenshot is the top of that list, and then we've gone down to the bottom of the list. So it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of what is enabled already on your site, what is not enabled, and so forth. Some of the things will be relatively self-explanatory to you. Other things, like you may look at bundles and say, what the heck is a bundle? So that's when you would go back to the help site and do a search for bundles, and you can read all about what bundles are. And that is what this next slide is about. So looking at a module's help page. So the help page should tell you what the module is for how much it costs, what its current status is. So we have two examples on this slide. So electronic verification of time by users and supervisors. You can see why we call it EVT instead of all those words. So you can see it tells you the purpose, provides electronic confirmation of time by users and electronic verification of time by supervisors and other staff per pay period. You can also see that it costs money. So some modules are free, some cost money, some cost a little bit of money, some cost a lot of money. It just depends. It also tells you if you're interested in and want to get this module, how to do that. You can file a ticket from your site, which is to go to your help menu on your site and click on support request. And for modules that cost money, and like EVT, we'll send you a change order, get payment, we'll get it enabled. For bigger modules like EVT, there's a couple different steps that we go through in terms of getting it on your site, helping you get it set up and so forth. You can also just send an email. It doesn't mention it there under how to get that module, but you can also just send an email to support@legalserver.org. The second example there, address search. So it provides a search menu, link to search addresses, and so forth. What we wanted to point out here was this next part, which is status. This feature is in beta testing. Pricing and availability have not been set, and it must be enabled by LegalServer staff. So this one is even, in terms of getting it enabled, it's even a little more vague. But anytime you see it must be enabled by LegalServer staff or something like that, that means file a ticket from your site or send an email to support@legalserver.org. Then what is this beta testing business? So if you've been around software, you may have heard the phrase beta testing. So often software it's initially developed, that's what's called alpha testing, and then goes in, things get changed and fixed and polished and so forth, and it goes into beta testing, and then it gets some more testing and so forth, and then finally it becomes a fully released piece of software, or in our case, a fully released module. So that's what we mean by the phrase beta testing. So these are modules. They may not have the final coat of wax and polish on them. They are in use by at least one site, oftentimes in use by many different sites. For many modules, oftentimes a particular site will have paid for the development of that module. So they will, of course, have it during the beta testing. And at this point, at the point that it goes into beta testing, it means it's working well for them. It will likely work well for all other sites, but we want you to be aware at this point that there may be minor-ish issues. There won't be any big show-stopping bugs or things like that. We will never put a module into beta testing that would, ever do any harm to your data. Certainly not delete data or change data or anything like that. If you want to participate in beta testing, just like if it's a module's not in beta testing, file a ticket from your site, email support@legalserver.org. Also specify to us if you only want this to appear on your demo site initially. So we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But yeah, so if you're not sure and you just went on your demo site and you want to look at it there and play with it, let us know that. So for the address search, the things that are in beta testing, so the understandable question is, what if I participate in the address search beta testing or any other module, and then later, once it's finally released, you decide that it's going to cost $5,000 for that module? Am I obligated to pay for that? The answer is no, you're not obligated to pay for that. So at a minimum, you'll have the option to say, no thanks, not worth $5,000, disable it on my site. So whether it's a demo, live, whichever or both that you have it on. Of course, you'll also have the option to say, yes, this is a valuable feature for our site. We want to continue using it. And then you'll be able to pay the cost of it to keep it on your site. You also will have the opportunity to make a case that you've been a super valuable beta tester, and that we should waive any setup costs for that particular feature. If a module has an ongoing monthly charge, we might waive that. There's no guarantee that that would be waived, even if you have been very valuable, but you can certainly make that case, but just be aware the answer may be no. If a module has an ongoing monthly charge, which neither of our examples here do, but some of them do, so like the premium APIs, there's an initial cost to get those enabled, or actually there may not be an initial cost, but there is an ongoing charge to have a particular module like that used or enabled on your site. If there is an ongoing monthly charge for the feature that you've been beta testing and is now released, that will never or will not be waived. So you will be starting at a minimum, we'll start charging for that monthly amount. Can you get a module on your demo site for testing? Answers, almost certainly yes. There may be some really corner case exceptions where we might say no, we can't do that, but generally we can do that. And as I think I mentioned earlier, a lot of times people will say, oh, this module looks great, but I don't want to get this. It's going to do things to the site, and I don't want to do those things on my live site. So I want to try those out on my demo site first. So certainly ask us if you can just have it on demo site for testing. And as it tells you there, most of the time we will say, yeah, that's no problem. Can you get it on your demo site first and then add it to your live site later? And again, the answer is almost certainly yes to that as well. So what about modules that cost money? So can I get a module that, like the electronic verification of time, costs $4,100? Can I get that on my demo site just to try it out, see if it works and so forth? The answer for that module is no, you can't get it for free on your demo site because it costs over $1,000. So for expensive modules like that, like EVT, Advanced Grants Management, and so forth, that's the understandable thing is that costs a lot of money and we don't want to just shell that out without having to actually see it on our site and click around and so forth. So what we did come up with is for modules that cost more than $1,000, we created a page on our help site that you can find. It's called Try Before You Buy. So if you search for that on the help page, that will come up. The short version of that is you can pay half of the cost to get a module enabled on your demo site for a calendar quarter. If you're not familiar with billing in LegalServer, if you don't ever deal with that, we bill quarterly. Then it will be disabled at the end of the quarter, or you can pay the balance of the cost to keep it. But there's not a refund of that half of the cost that you pay for. So we're not trying to just squeeze money out of you. The reason a lot of these modules that cost a lot of money, they also require a fair amount of work on our end to get them enabled properly, get them set up so that they're going to work for you. So we came up with that as what we think is a pretty good compromise in terms of being able to try those things out. I got ahead of myself on the slides. Module X looks expensive. Can we try it out for free? As I just explained, that's a definite maybe. Are the costs of these modules made up or what? So a little bit cheeky question on this slide. And the answer is depends on what you mean by made up, which is also a little cheeky answer for you there too. So when we're talking about building these modules and things like that, nothing ever comes for free. So anything, even a very small thing, requires time for our developers to build these things, to test these things, for then support staff here, internal staff to test these things, make sure these things work. And even a pretty simple new feature is typically going to take dozens of hours. Some of the bigger ones, Advanced Grants Management, the contractor module, those literally took hundreds, probably really thousands of hours at this point to build those. So when we're talking about how much a module will cost, we are primarily looking at how much time is it going to take us to enable a module, get it set up, maybe provide some initial training for it, that sort of thing. And then we also look at what a module is going to use in terms of resources. So that's where you'll come in, you'll see the monthly charges type of thing. Getting an online intake site, there's an initial cost to that, and then there's an ongoing monthly charge because presumably people are going to be filling out online intakes and so forth. And so that's going to use up computing resources, which are going to cost us money. We have to charge you monthly amounts for those. So the answer is no, we don't make them up. You'll see if you look through the modules, a lot of them are free. External forms, which I'll mention in a couple of minutes, is a good example. We spent a not inconsiderable amount of time building the external forms module. It was not a trivial thing to create, and that happened to coincide with COVID. And so we just decided we're going to not try to recoup all that time that we spent building that module, and we just enabled it or made it available to every site for free. So we love doing that. We love being able to say, yep, here it is, it's for free. Use it if it's going to be useful to you. So now we're going to just talk about a couple of the actually underused modules, and this is very much an opinionated list. So branch logic is the first one. Now we're not on the advanced track, so this is really more geared towards people that may be very new to LegalServer. So some people have been around, been site administrators for a while, so branch logic, I know what that is. And branch logic is not underused in the sense that many sites, probably close to all sites, have some branch logic already on them. But I always like to mention it because newer site administrators may not realize they have branch logic on their site. The purpose of branch logic at the very basic level is to let you prompt for to display subforms based on user selections or on existing data. A very simple example, somebody's filling out an intake, they ask the question, is the client homeless? Or maybe that's one of the out of your list of what is the client's current living situation. If they selected rents an apartment, nothing would happen. Rents a house, nothing would happen. But if they select homeless, then you want 4 additional fields to pop up on that form. You would do that through branch logic. Many other things that you can do with branch logic. You can use branch logic on your case profiles. So if a case is assigned to a particular legal problem code or to a particular program or some other field that you can use in branch logic is filled out a certain way, display certain things on the case profile. If that field is not, whether a different value is stored for that field, don't display anything additional on the case profile page. Go to the help page. There's actually a few help pages on the branch logic forms. There's a few different blocks that you can use. So definitely well worth your time. You may have heard all the cool kids all talking about, oh, branch logic is old school. We do everything in guided nav. And they'll say guided nav just to try to sound cool. What they're talking about is guided navigation. Guided navigation is great. It's definitely worth looking into. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. But what I always like to point out to people, especially if you're relatively new, you can sit down and if you know nothing about branch logic, you can sit down, learn how to put branch logic on one of your intake forms and ask those 4 additional questions and so forth. You can probably do that in 30 minutes or less. You will not be able to do that with guided navigation. You're going to spend some time. Guided navigation, as I say, it's great. Yeah, look into it, but there's a learning curve to guided navigation. There's also a setup curve to guided navigation as well. Electronic verification of time, we've talked about that a few different times already. So just getting out of the business of printing things out and signing them and so forth. It is an expensive module. Is it worth it? You just have to make that call. So if your staff is spending time filling out timesheets and possibly printing, signing, and faxing and emailing timesheets around, then definitely think about that. I can say honestly, and I'm not trying to sell you the EVT module, every site administrator I've ever talked to has said they've been very happy that they spent the money to get EVT, and they don't know what they would do if they had to go back to the old way of doing things. Look at the help page on EVT. So how does EVT work? Look at the help page. There's some nice pretty screenshots there and walks you through what's the end user's experience. When they go to confirm their time, what's the verifier, what we call the verifiers. So those are often supervising attorneys or other people, maybe even some of your fiscal staff that goes in and verifies time. There's the ability to question someone's time. So a verifier looks through and says, hey, I see you've got 12 hours on this day, you've got 5 hours on this day. that doesn't meet our requirements, so you need to go in and change something. External forms, I also mentioned earlier, that was when I was talking about, we released that as a free module when COVID came around. So it allows you to send a link to someone in a case. It doesn't have to be the client, but it can be oftentimes is the client. Information that they fill out on the form that they link to, and you build as a site administrator, you build that form, that external form, just like you would any other form within LegalServer. So if you've ever built an auxiliary form oftentimes it's for special programs or grants or something like that, it'll be very familiar to you. So whatever fields you put on that form for the client to fill out or to make selections, that will be saved directly back into the case. Common question is, wait a minute, does that mean that I'm giving the client access to their case so they can see the notes and everything else? The answer is no. They can only see what is on the form or forms that you send them. Common examples: hello client, we have the following information about you on your case. Please look over this, and if you see anything that's wrong, please correct it. Thanks very much. Or please acknowledge that this is the retainer agreement that we're working under. If you go to the help page for external forms, there's some links there from some examples actually contributed by some of your fellow site administrators for how to set up getting retainer agreements and so forth, and other acknowledging other agreements, things like that. So you can send a link by email, you can get a URL to send them. It's actually a short URL. If you have the SMS module, you can text the link to them. How much does it cost? Nothing. It's free. Single sign-on is also and external forms, I should say, is not underused in the sense a lot of different sites are using it. So don't feel like it's some niche thing that you're going to be like one of the early adopters to. But I think it's underused in the sense that a lot of people don't really know about it. Single sign-on is the same thing. We have a lot of different sites using single sign-on, but I think there are a lot of organizations that don't realize that single sign-on is there. Does your staff already sign into Microsoft Office 365, Google Workspace, or you may have an Okta login to your workspace, whatever it happens to be? Don't make your users remember or store yet another login and password. Hopefully they're using password managers. If they do have to store logins and passwords, they're not using yellow sticky notes on their monitor, but that does happen. So you can provide a link. So when they go to get into LegalServer, they have a link that says single sign-on. They click on that. If they're already signed into Office 365, Google Workspace, whatever it happens to be, then they will be right into LegalServer. So now you know where to find all the optional modules LegalServer offers. Go to the help site, click on that optional modules card on the main page. You know where to find the modules that are enabled on your site. So you would go to your admin tab in your navigation bar, put modules in the search box or extensions, click on that. That'll provide you a long list and tell you exactly what is enabled on your site or is not enabled. And you also know how to learn more about what a particular module does, how it gets configured. That's by going to that module specific help page on our help site, help.legalserver.org. If you ever look at a module help page and there's something that's not clear, we very much welcome emails to support@legalserver.org saying, hey, this help page says XYZ, it's not clear to me what that means, and so forth. And we will go and update the help page. One, will let you know the answer to your question, and then we will go change the help page so that it's clear for everybody in the future. And then the final thoughts for this session, a few things to consider. So we have a ton of modules. So it can be overwhelming to say, oh my goodness, there's 110 modules. When am I going to find time to look through all these? Very understandable. But scan through just the title, the page titles on that optional modules page, and something might pique your interest. And just as you can, take time looking through them. Hopefully, everybody that's going to be listening to this session is on the site admin's mailing list. If you're not, look at our help page. It'll tell you how to get on the site admin's mailing list because you'll see things mentioned in our weekly release notes. And it'll mention for sites with EVT enabled, you'll get this for sites with the contractor module, for sites with this module. And that will also prompt you. And we also try to provide links there to that module's help page. So I always suggest people just, if you find something interesting, pick one, start with that, and go from there. Also, never hesitate to come to any of our office hours, which are always free, or to email support@legalserver.org. And again, just say, hey, I see that there's this module. I have a question about it. Let me know what's going on. The one thing that's not on this slide, which I will mention, is please don't send us an email saying, I've been through the 110 modules and here's 65 of them that I would like to try. Enabling modules requires work on our site, although there are some that you'll be able to self-enable just by turning on user role permissions. But, ask us to enable modules that you think you're pretty serious about using. So pick one, try that, pick another one. It's unlikely you're going to want 55 or 65, but yeah, definitely don't send us that email. So I hope this session was helpful, and thanks for your attention.